Under my videos about the maps, a lot of users have been asking how to implement live tracking like Uber or WhatsApp, so keep track of this video because that's exactly what we're going to see. As always, we're going to inspect first what we're going to see in this video. Here you can see a map with 2 pins, and if we actually zoom in on one of these, so let's just go to this one, and I have to do some clicking here to actually get the zoom going, because at a larger scale then you're not going to actually see that this is live tracking, but here you can see this pin is moving. And we're tracking this other user's location. So that's pretty cool, right? We can see this pin moving along with someone that is actually moving along these coordinates. So that's what we're going to see how to implement this in this video. But first, I'm going to have to explain to you a little bit about the code that we're about to see. Now, before we dive straight into the code, the thing that you're about to see is, very dependent on how you're getting the other user's location. So you probably want to, have some kind of server in place where your app on the one hand says like, hey, I want to share my location. At that point, it will start sending the user's location from the GPS. I've got a video on just how to get the GPS position of your device with geolocation in Xamarin Essentials. So that should pop up on your screen, or go check it out in the video description below. And you want to start sending that through your server. And on the other hand, you want to have your app from the client pull that server basically to get the coordinates from that user and actually show it on a map. So I'm going to use a couple of static files here to simulate kind of the route that you're seeing, simulate that we have another user on the other end that is kind of moving through GPS coordinates. I'll show you what that's all about. But this is very dependent on how you implement the architecture and the infrastructure for this. So the only thing that I'm going to show you is how to actually add that pin and set up the live tracking for another user. How you want to get the coordinates and that kind of stuff, that is kind of up to you and very specific to the project that you're working on. So keep that in mind and try to translate this to your own project. And here we are in Visual Studio for Mac 2019. On the left, you can see the project that I've been creating for implementing Xamarin.Forms maps. So this is, a little bit different than other videos that you might have seen. This is not a file new Xamarin.Forms application, so I would recommend, if you did not watch the other video, please watch that one on how to actually set up these maps, because there's a couple of things that you need to know. But whatever you do, you can see the map on your screen, like you can see here in the iOS simulator on the right. So here I just have map my map. It's showing the user, so it's showing me Rome right now. But if I zoom out here, zoom, and I go a little bit here, then you can see that it's showing my location on the map as well. This is of course simulated. If you're running this on a physical device, then it will show the actual location of your device. So that is pretty cool. Now let's first update our title right here. So maps live tracking, because that's what we're going to do. Oops, live tracking. And it updates automatically with hot reload, so you can see the title is updated. This works for your Android emulator, iOS simulator, all your physical devices too. And it's going to be even better with .NET hot reload, which allows you to also reload your C# code while you're actually coding. So that is going to be pretty cool. Now what we want to do, besides this initialization of the maps, I've done a little bit of pre-work as well, because I don't want to confuse you with all of this stuff, because you don't actually need it. Like I said before, if you want to set up this live tracking, then you have to have some way of, getting the coordinates from the other user, maybe through a server probably, onto your own device. So the way to kind of simulate that, I have a couple of TCX files. They're here in my solution, the shared project resources, and those are just a certain type of XML files with a training center database with activities. In this case, it's running, so it's someone who did a little run. And here you have the track with track points, and this is the position and even the altitude and whatnot, those kinds of things. But I'm only interested in the coordinates right here. Actually, these two files are from two community members that we love and know, so try to figure out if you can see who those are. Also, I borrowed a little piece of code from my good friend Jean-Marie Alfonsi. You might probably know him from Sharpnado. He uses actually these TCX files, so that's your first hint right there, in another project. And also he had this little class that makes it a little bit easier to load files from the embedded resources. I think a lot of people were also interested in loading files from embedded resources, so if that's something that you want to see a video about, please let me know in the comments. But this video is about live tracking. So what I do here is I get these through that embedded class. I load these files and I get basically the activity lab track. So all the GPS points out there, the coordinates out there, right? So I have some coordinates that I can use for the live tracking. And then the live tracking is nothing more than placing a pin on the map and just updating the location basically. So let's just see how to do that. First, let's create a pin right here. So private pin. Pin is something that lives in the Xamarin.Forms maps. So let's create a new one of that. Pin for route 1. So we're just going to see 2. We're going to track 2 users even. Is new pin. There we go. And so this is an important thing right here. You have to assign it with a label, at least on iOS. I'm not sure if it's true for all the platforms, but you have to assign it a label, else you will get a runtime exception that your pin could not be added. So that's very important. So label, and we're going to say other users location. There we go. And let's just create another one. So let me copy this one, and this is going to be route 2. There we go. So now we have 2 pins that we can work with. Now the first thing that we probably want to do is say my map, because if we go back to my XAML, I gave this a little X name, my map, and I can just reference it here from my code behind, my map dot pins dot add, and I can say pin route 1. There we go. So now it's added to the map, and it should be showing somewhere. We didn't give it a location yet, so we might shuffle this around a little bit, that we only show it the first time we get the coordinates, but for now this will probably do. I'll wait with the pin route 2 for a little bit longer. Let's just start with 1 to start off easy. And now what I'm going to do is basically just loop through these coordinates that I am getting that we want to mimic the route with. Now, again, if you want to, have a different way of getting the coordinates, hopefully, because this is just simulating it, then you have to do some other way. But it kind of probably involves polling your server for new data to see if there are new coordinates and then update the pin. So it's probably going to be very similar to this. Now, okay, I'm going to use a Xamarin.Forms.device.start timer. So I'm going to trigger a timer here. Then I have to set a time span from seconds. I'm just going to do this each second. And for the second parameter, I have to put in a function that is going to be executed each time the timer runs. Now, from this function, you need to return true if you want the timer to run again. If you return false, then the timer stops. I'll do some magic on that a little bit later, but for now, just return true. So now this timer will trigger every second. Now, what I want to do is basically say pin route 1 dot position. And I want to update that with the new position, right? It's added to the map so you can see it. And now I just want to update the position each time. So we're just going to do that, but I first need to have an index as well, because these points are arrays. So I want to loop through this with my index. So let's just create a little index thing here, start at 0. And then I'm going to say position is new Xamarin.Forms map position. And there I can specify a latitude and a longitude. So I can get that from my points route 1. Use that index, and here I should have the position as well, and I'm going to say latitude degrees, and then of course the same thing for kind of the longitude degrees. There we go, latitude, and this has to be longitude, then longitude. There we go. So now we got this set up. Now the pin is going to actually update its position. Of course, it's kind of like, where in the world is this? You'd have no idea. So maybe we want to see if index is 0. So the first time we are going to say my map dot move to region. We've seen that in another video as well. And here we can say the map span. So here we can say map span dot from center and radius, and just get that first latitude longitude thing here as well. I could have, oh, well, actually this is easy because we set this into our pin, pin route 1. So we can just say pin route 1 dot position. There we go, of course. And we need to specify a distance, so we can also Xamarin.Forms map, say what kind of zoom we want to have, dot distance dot from kilometers, it's going to be 1. There we go. So now the first time, let's make this a little bit clearer in our sample code right here. Now the first time, so for when our index is 0, it's going to move to this pin route 1 to just bring that into focus. And then from there, you can zoom, you can do all the things. Maybe, of course, if you want to implement this yourself, you can add a button where you can say, hey, show me the location of this user, and it will zoom back if you're going to scroll through the map or whatnot. But for this, it should work like this. And then, of course, what we want to do last is do the index, add a little bit to that. So I'm going to say plus is 5, so it goes by 5 each time, because one of these XML files was where someone was running, so that's not going very fast. So I'm just going to go through the coordinates a little bit faster. Then also, if this is something that is more real life, then you probably want to check at some point not return true, because if you remember this, make sure that the timer loops again. But we want to do maybe something like, hey, points route 1 dot length is more than index. There we go. Then we just want to stop running and break off these loop, and it's going to stop. So again, if you were getting the coordinates from a server, then you can stop the timer then and there, but that's something that you can think of doing. Now we can stop and start this application, and I think we should have everything to see our first pin moving, so that's going to be exciting. Let's see, here is our application coming back up. It will take us from Rome to somewhere in the US, and here you can see this pin is moving. It's going off-road. Oh my gosh, what's happening? I think there's some kind of trail here and someone is running. So you can see this pin, the more we zoom out, of course, the less moving will happen because the scale will change, but you can see it still moves a little bit. So yeah, that's how you can live track a user right here. And you can see whenever you click it, you can see that little label that we set up. So you can also put some information there on who you're actually tracking. And yeah, that's how to implement this live tracking. Now you can do this for multiple. So if you want to track multiple people, let's just implement the route 2 as well. Then you basically just have to say, okay, I'm just going to do this other pin right here, pin route 2. We're going to use this route 2 thing here as well. And with this one too. And that's basically how to just, well, we need to add it to the map. Let's not forget that. There we go. So let it add it here. And for the rest, it uses the same things. So we have used the route 2, so it's using this other thing here as well. So here you can see it went off the map. So this is implementation details. That's up to you. Like, do you want to keep tracking it? If you're only tracking one pin, then that's totally fine. But remember that that's also going to mess with like the user zoom level. So it's probably much better to add a button somewhere that brings the pin back into view and let do not mess with the user's view too much. So let's just stop and start this one, and now we should have 2 pins, one in the US where we are going whenever we have the app starting up, and the other I think is somewhere in France. Someone is riding a bike up some kind of mountain. So if we zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, then we should have another pin right here. And if I'm going to click aggressively to zoom in on this map, there we go. Then we are now in France, and you can see that this pin is moving too. This is going faster. I think this is someone on a bike, so this is going pretty fast. So that's cool, right? This is how you can implement live tracking with Xamarin.Forms maps in a Xamarin.Forms application. I hope this makes clear how to implement the live tracking in a Xamarin.Forms application. Of course, this concept works also for, whenever you're using just Google Maps or, well, in this case, Xamarin.Forms maps. Basically, the only thing you're doing is adding a pin and just updating that all the time. So, it's not that hard. The hard thing actually is to figure out how to get the coordinates from the one device to the other device, but that is a challenge up to you. Now, I can already hear the next question. That is, how to implement a custom pin, because this pin is nice and all, but you probably want to show a little car if you're tracking a car or maybe something else. So let me know in the comments if that's something that you want to see, a custom pin, and who knows, that might be my next video. For now, thanks for watching. Please click that like button if you've liked this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and for the rest, I'll be seeing you for my next video. Keep coding.